Welcome to the Principal Podcast, where we talk about how the best professional services firms grow. Whether you're looking to scale your firm or learn from the stories of founders and leaders who've done it, you're in the right place. Join us as we interview the best leaders in professional services. Let's get on with the show. Well, welcome to the Principal Podcast, David. Happy to have you.
It is good to be with you.
Let's jump straight into it. What got you into consulting? What made strategic business relationships become the focus of your life's work, David?
So I've always believed an expert first, a consultant, coach, speaker, author, whatever, a distant second. So for about a decade before I started my own firm, I was president of a company, so I was an operator. And then I spent several years with a private equity firm where we bought and sold companies. So I spent a lot of time looking at business models, looking at leadership teams and styles. And one of the aha moments that I had in that job was, if you look at two competitive peer companies, it isn't necessarily the one with capabilities or skills or people. We all have great people. We all have a depth of capabilities. My assertion was they build great relationships, both inside the company that make that talent want to stay there, but also with their clients. And to the point that something like 90% of their business came from existing relationships, either referrals or recommendations, or when a client would leave and go somewhere else, I'd hire them again. And so I actually built one of the earliest memories I have of building a relationship scorecard. And what I was really looking at was the relationship depth, the relationship health, the relationship relevance, and how they were able to tie that consistently to their growth. And I did this on behalf of a private equity firm. That PE firm ended up shutting down. And when I left, I had 40 interviews for go-to-market jobs, right? So think of chief revenue officer or VP of sales types. And none of them really got me excited. And my wife and I have just celebrated 30 years of being married. She knows me better than I know myself. So we've been asking each other for years, how's your head? How's your heart? And I said, I'm not really excited about any of the jobs. So what do you think you want to do? I said, I think I want to go on my own. And that was 24 years ago. And in these 2 decades, what I figured out was we all intuitively understand relationships, but it's not quantified, it's not intentional, it's not really strategic in many organizations. And I've carved out this niche to the point that, this green book behind me is book number 12, and I'm blessed to work with a lot of really marquee clients in being that relationship expert.
What problem does that solve? Like with your clients today, what is it that you're helping them achieve through that?
Great question. I would submit that access doesn't equate to trust, and trust doesn't equate to influence. And deals are lost for a lot of professional service firms because they don't know who's trusted, who's influential, and who can move the deal forward. So it shows up that the symptoms become missed opportunities. You got win-loss ratios that are lopsided. You're proposing 20 and you're winning 3 of them or 5 of them. What happened to the other ones, right? Well, we didn't have the right relationships. We didn't know the right people. Or professional service firms, consulting firms that respond to RFPs. I had a leader years ago who told me that don't ever respond to an RFP that you didn't help write. So that's responding to it. That is not shaping the ideas and directions. And so I'm brought in because someone recognizes that relationships really are critical to our success. The other thing that is really troubling for many organizations, that cold outreach. Think of how many spam emails you get every day. And if you call me and I don't know you, respectfully, I'm not picking up the phone. I think most people are that way. So if cold outreach is dying, really astute companies are back to hand-to-hand relationship combat. Companies get frustrated when they see an existing relationship hire another firm to do something they could have done. But it's not the client's job to realize and recognize that you're capable of doing that. Somebody else is dating your girlfriend. Somebody else is nurturing relationships that should be top of mind for you and your team. The other challenge in many consulting firms is relationships are very episodic, or they're in pockets. You've got one or two rainmakers that are feeding the firm versus, we all have relationships. We all, whether it's your kids are in sports or your hobby or neighborhood party or pickleball or whatever else you're doing, there's relationships in all of our lives. How are you prioritizing? How are you nurturing? How are you sustaining those? How are you capitalizing on them to turn them into opportunities?
So you mentioned consulting firms, and by the way, I love this. I mean, I think we are in the same business line, the relationship building space. So I dig this. You mentioned consulting firms. Who is it that you help specifically? Is it, so I guess, heavily relationship driven businesses? Is that consulting firms, boutique, big fours, MBBs?
Great,
who do you work with?
Again, another good question. Tell me what business couldn't benefit from stronger relationships, right? So I was just in Zurich working with a group of Deloitte, about 100 Deloitte partners, to help them deepen their C-suite relationships. And I'm working with a 5-person boutique, literally 5 principals that are growing. I think they're up to like 12 or 14 now, that realize that the 5 are not they're senior, but they're not scalable, right? So they need to cascade that to the rest of their teams. So the common thread between all of my clients, whether they're Fortune 500 or more boutique firms, is that, as I said, they and these are my criteria for working with a client, right? 1, you need an executive sponsor. You need one of the principals, one of the managing partners to not just realize, but really advocate that our business model is predicated on strategic relationships. 2, I don't want to try to teach, I'm saying this respectfully, I don't want to try to teach people that relationships are important. If you don't get that, we have bigger issues. So I want to work with people who get it to really raise the bar on their capability, on their efficiency, on their effectiveness, on their impact. Everything from how to get in at the right level to how to stay in, to how to really elevate your impact, particularly in a time where consulting is under attack, under threat. So the common thread is, you said it, they're very relationship-centric businesses. So I ask questions like, what percentage of your businesses repeat or referral? I've always believed every referral is a recommendation versus net new. Now, I don't know of a firm that doesn't need net new business, but you better also be getting a good part of your business from repeat or referral or recommendations from others.
Amen to that. This is going to sound like a stupid question, but I love stupid question. So how do you market, David? How do you brand? How do you get the message out there and people to knock on the door?
Yeah, I've always, as I said earlier, I've always believed in expert first. So I'm a big believer of, and a mentor drove into me, let your body of work speak for you. So as I mentioned, 12 books, I've got 2 more coming this year. I've got 2 more coming next year. So write, hopefully on a consistent basis. I'm fairly active on LinkedIn, so I post every day, 8 a.m. Eastern. I post, some piece typically with an image that talks about, strategic relationships, real innovation, lasting change. So number 1 is my body of work. Number 2, I've always believed, be exceptional, whether that client is Disney or a company you've never heard of, right? So if you deliver outsized value for your clients, those who get it remember you. Those who get it right? Well, I've been blessed. I've had one client has hired me in 4 different companies. He goes to the next one, calls me up, Nour, we're having the exact same issues. Can you come help? 90% of my work comes from people that have heard me speak. We've worked together before, or I've been recommended to somebody. So my marketing is very much that word of mouth. By the same token, I make sure I prospect at least 4 contacts every single day. So I learned this years ago. In the consulting world, is ebb and flow, right? We prospect and we do a lot of business development and we build a pipeline till we get engagement. Then we go dark on business development, delivering that engagement, and you don't follow up and the pipeline dies. And then the project's over and you have a dry pipeline that you got to work through again. And I said, I didn't want to do that. So to this day, 24 years, every day, religiously, regardless of where I am in the world, regardless of what I'm doing, I call, email, reach out to at least 4 people every single day. Think about it. Typical week, that's 20 contacts. Typical month, I'm touching 80 to 100 people. And these are not, sometimes they're existing clients, but they're also net new prospects. And what I've learned is you need small projects, you need medium, you need large, you need short term, you need medium, you need long term. And that's what creates that stability, that consistency instead of the ebb and flow.
I like that a lot. Consistency is like, what is it? Discipline eats motivation every day for breakfast or something like this?
And that consistency is what sets people that do it on a sunny Tuesday, but not a rainy Thursday. and like you see it on and again, if the commitment is there, you figure out a way to incorporate business development, relationship development into your life. So a couple of days ago, this one executive has been really hard to get a hold of. Every time we've met him, he looks like he's in really good shape. So I've brought up, hey, do you work out? Do you go to the gym? In one of those bizarre just situations, he goes to the same gym I do. I'm like, I'll meet, can I meet you there? We'll work out together. That's what I did. That was my business development. One of them that day is I worked out with a prospect. Another client rides motorbikes, right? So do I. So yeah, we've done some work together where we talked about a motorbike and he's got a small one, but I met him a couple weekends ago, and this is a guy that's been really hard to get a hold of. And most everybody's busy. We spent 6 hours together on a Saturday, riding through some beautiful country, right? And we laughed about it because we got caught in a rainstorm and we got wet. And so you got to practice what you preach. And if I'm in the relationship business, you lead with the relationship first, which I've always believed the business will come from.
So are you telling me, David, that you're building relationships as a way to market and grow the piece? Is that what you're doing?
As I mentioned, my lovely bride and I have just celebrated 30 years of marriage. And I don't think anybody, thank you. Married men live longer, by the way. We tend to do hopefully less dumb things, right? But
allegedly,
but none of, and we have somebody that will tell us, are you really going to leave the house looking like that? I mean, who doesn't need that, right? But if you think about it, most of us didn't propose to our significant others on the first date. So why do you believe, right? You're very good at what you do as a firm. Why do you believe it would be any different than dating your significant other or spouse or your partner than it would be professionally? So I try to add value. I do have a 3-touch rule. So I'll invest 3 times, right, without asking for anything in return. But if I've added, again, outsized value, if I've invested in that relationship and after 3 times the light bulb doesn't go off that you could benefit from, you need my help, or you could value working with me, all good people, good intentions. You cannot prioritize everyone. You cannot invest in, as a matter of fact, the Dunbar number says that an average individual can proactively manage about 100 to 150 relationships. That's it. That's all the bandwidth we have. So if you believe this assertion that it's an investment of time, effort, resources, you cannot invest in everybody equally. So how will you then prioritize who you're going to invest in? So the person that I invest 3 times and they don't engage, I deprioritize them and I can prioritize someone else. They still get the newsletter. I still touch base. I call probably once a month, once every couple months. So I'm in touch. That's one of my 4 calls a day. Hey, I haven't talked to you, just checking in. What's happening? Read this, and I thought it might be useful to you. Met this person. I thought the 2 of you would benefit from getting to know each other. So I'll demonstrate a vested interest in their success. But I don't need, I'm not chasing anybody. And I tell clients, I don't want to chase you to return my calls and emails. And I'm sure as hell I'm not going to chase you to get paid. So if you set the bar that I'm fundamentally in the relationship business, like I said, the business comes from it.
I mean, I want to piggyback a bit on this because I think this is so important and valuable for professional service firm owners, but not only, overall B2B businesses where relationships matter a lot. I'm saying this because one of the feedback that we had in one of our group coaching recently is, GHA is expecting us to sell all day, every day, and like have conversations. And I was like, yeah, because this is what you said you wanted. Like, you have a firm making $1 million a year, 10 clients, 100K each. You churn out 2 per year, right? And they just replace because you get word of mouth and referral. You said you wanted to double. You need to sign 10 more clients in the next 12 months. How many people do you think you need to talk to in order to sign 10, 100K per year deals? For sure not 2, probably not 10, more like 20, 30, maybe 40. And that's multiple calls with those people. Like, I'm just saying this because it's a bit of a frustration of mine, as you can see. But it's like you're putting in the work and the volume consistently, right? You're not making 150 dials a day, 4 consistently each and every day. But that's triggering the conversations with the right people is what grows a business, whether we like it or not. And I know consultants get rewarded to be the expert in the room, to be the person people go to instead of them going to the person, which is why it's such a, like, instinctively feels so wrong. But that's what's required if we want to grow a biz. Please, thoughts on this?
Yeah, I was going to say, I've always believed in the rule of 3. Again, another rule of 3. You're going to win one, you're going to lose one, and one's just going to go. Mm-hmm. So if I'm trying to work with 50 clients this year, I make sure there's 150 that is active, right, on my radar on a consistent basis. And most professional service firms, most consulting firms, their businesses are very much event driven because that client may not need you today, tomorrow, or next week. I was just talking to a managing partner of a firm that does M&A, kind of due diligence and M&A, whether it's buy side or sell side. And M&A is not happening every day, but they have a line of sight into their target, buy side or sell side list. And right. So what I want to do is, and by the way, this might be really useful for you and your audience. For one of the books, I invested the time to interview 100 end customers. So think of your customers. And I asked them, why did you pick, this firm versus somebody else? And the number one answer was they added value when there was not an engagement on the table. They stayed in touch proactively. That, as I said earlier, demonstrated a vested interest in our success. And there was no engagement. We didn't talk about an engagement. There was no billable hours. There was no time and material. There was no scoping, right? But when the opportunity did come up, they're the only one, right? They were the number one organization, I thought of, or that part, and it wasn't even an organization. I could care less about the company. It's that partner, or it's that individual that was, and by the way, first time we worked together was 20 years ago. I've brought that person into 4 other companies that I've been to, right? This is what end customers are saying. So if the partners don't build a culture of relationship centricity, lead with the relationship and the business will come from it. And you have to be smart about it, but that's an example of, I'm going to add value, I'm going to touch base, I'm going to connect people, I'm going to invite them to a World Cup game or a dinner, or right. My wife and I host dinners on a regular basis, and people come. By the way, people like me a lot more after they meet my wife, right? Let's be honest, right? But we host
another reason to marry.
Another reason to marry well. But people come to the house. People go out to group dinners, and I intentionally introduce people to each other. I have a annual conference, an executive symposium that I invite 35 to 50 people to, and I make sure they sit next to other people that I want them to meet. And so all of these things allow you to build a reputation for, this guy just doesn't consult on this topic. He lives it. This is genuinely, authentically who he is.
Relationships. How do you retain, David? So all that said, I see how that leads to business. How do you solve the next problem and the next problem and the next problem and maximize client retention and also the value that you bring to them?
I call it knowledge to wisdom flywheel. So if you think about how any of us grow personally and professionally, there's three things, right? Acquisition of a new skill. Let's just use Claude and Claude Code, and right, you got to pick up that as a skill. The knowledge from the application of that skill. This is what worked for me, may not work for you, but this is what works and what doesn't. And then the last one is the change in our behaviors. Those are the three ways: skill, knowledge, change in behaviors. Those are the three ways we all grow. The flywheel comes when you apply the skill, the knowledge, and the behaviors to create wisdom. So can I hammer in a screw into a wall? Sure. Is a drill a better option? Yes. In your toolbox, you have both a hammer and a drill. Which scenario requires which tool? That wisdom, that I turn into, as quickly as I learn it, how can I immediately apply it and teach it to a client, bring it into an engagement, put on a webinar, put on a workshop, write about it, right? And again, a mentor drove into me. If you tell people everything you know, they're not going to be that excited about an ongoing relationship. Conversely, if you leave them wanting more, then what you create is what he calls market gravity or market pull. So I've been blessed. I haven't had to, really cold call anybody in 20 plus years, because you work with someone. I just did a leadership program for a client a couple of days ago, and the CEO before this event says, "We want you back next year. We want an ongoing relationship with you because they get value. I stay in touch. I create this rhythm, and I'm trying to get away from transactional consulting and really focus on transformational work." And that's where the AI platform comes in. That's where these summits and these other programs we do. So all of that becomes a flywheel. So knowledge to wisdom flywheel that continuously forces you to learn and grow, and apply that knowledge, the wisdom, into real value creation. So what you're doing is you're turning intellectual property into intellectual capital. And I'm not doing the same kind of work I was doing 5 years ago. I'm not delivering the same set of tools I was 10 years ago. And there's a lot of people that have just been doing the same thing, and they either have hit a ceiling or, newsflash, many of these AI approaches to solving that problem is going to displace you because you haven't had a new approach to something in a really long time.
One thing I want to pick your brain on is, what do you feel is the right ratio between giving stuff away for free and withholding a bit of information? Context for this.
Yeah.
We are very strong on, we give everything away for free. We sell the implementation because the type of price we command and people we work with, and we help our clients do the same, by the way, is so high that the people that would take the knowledge and do it themselves are probably not the people who would work with us in the first place. But it is an excellent demonstration of the knowledge for the people who are like, actually, this is insane. I don't want to spend my time doing this. I want to hire the team to do it for me. And because I've been in business and around for a while, I know that someone who's done it hundreds of times will do it faster and better than me figuring it all out. That's why we're okay with giving all the knowledge away for free. But what's the right ratio for you, David? How do you think about that?
I unfortunately am on the other end of that pendulum. So a couple of things. I've always believed if you're really good at what you do, never do it for free. Number two, I balance that with, I tell people what needs to get done, not how. If you want to know how, it starts by hiring me. So I'm adding value because I'm telling them what to do. So Tiger Woods could tell you what to do in swinging a golf club. It's not going to make you a scratch golfer tomorrow, right? So the how is you would hire him, or you'd hire a coach to show you the grip and the swing, and right, and you get out there and you hit 500 balls, and you come back and you work on the next day, right? That's how you improve your golf score. So I tell people what they need to think about. Hey, here's a couple of things that, and most clients can't remember more than 2 or 3 things anyway. So tell them the what, and again, if you leave them wanting more, those who get it, and this might be a really good time to talk about this. Again, I'm a big believer that we're all products of the advice we take. And a mentor drove into me the fundamental difference between a mindset of abundance versus poverty. So the abundance mindset says, I know the value that I bring. I've worked with a lot of great clients. If I get thrown out of this office, I've gotten thrown out of bigger offices. So I'll find another engagement. The poverty mindset says, oh my God, if I don't get this piece of business, I'll never work again. I'll never eat again. I'm going to be homeless. And believe it or not, it starts with that mindset. So if you're really good at what you do, I've actually had prospects. And this story isn't about me, but I want you and your audience to think about this. I've had prospects go with another firm, and within a week or two, call me back. We made a mistake. We fired them. We'd like to work with you. It's for the same reason I don't discount my fees. Because the minute you discount your fees, the next thing that prospect is thinking is, how low will you go? So to answer your question, I add value, 3 touches. I tell them what needs to get done. The how starts with hiring me, because I am not a nonprofit.
Yeah.
I have, likewise, I have targets and aspirations, and there's things I want to do.
I like that. And I like a good challenge. That's the interesting thing for me in business. There is not one good answer like we are taught in school. There are multiple ways to get to a goal. You just need to pick the path that feels the best for you, and obviously testing, iterating, see what works best.
And you bring up a great point. The business model also predicates. So right now for our AI platform, I am discounting our AI platform by 90%. Why? I'm not optimizing the business model for revenue growth. I'm optimizing it for commitment.
Yeah.
So it all depends on your business model and your goals of what you're trying to accomplish.
Always.
I still don't want to do it for free, and I'm not doing it for free, but if you remove that pricing friction, could you get them to the table to work with you in a meaningful way?
Yeah, I like that. And I like your style, David. So I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball question at you, if you don't mind.
I love those. Bring it.
What's your number one challenge? What is the one nut that you're trying to crack that, once you crack, you're going to take the whole thing to the next level? What would that be for you?
I have a very small team. I genuinely love the people I work with. As long as I can remember, I've had a sense of urgency, right? So don't wait till tomorrow, something we can do this afternoon. What I'm learning is that motivation is intrinsic. It has to come from within people.
Yeah.
I can inspire, I can coach, I can guide, but like our kids, you can't do something for people.
Yeah.
So my challenge is figuring out, how do you inspire a sense of urgency? How do you inspire, particularly in AI?
Yeah.
It is changing so fast. It is evolving so fast. Waiting for something, waiting till next week, waiting till next month. We're in an arms race. So I'm coaching the team. Version 1 is better than version none. Build it. We'll make it better. We'll make it great. But let's get version 1 built. Let's test it to make sure it works.
Yeah.
But let's get it out. So we're getting better at it. We used to push new technology updates once a week. Now we push once a day. So we are getting better at it. And that's why I love being in Silicon Valley. If you're a gladiator, Silicon Valley is Rome. And when you're in that arena, you're surrounded by unbelievably sharp people, and from a technology standpoint. And I'm a big believer of go to the epicenter of where your industry thrives.
Yeah.
And if I'm trying to build an AI platform, Silicon Valley is that epicenter, right? And you go to these events and there's 400 founders, and they're all working on things the rest of the country, much less the rest of the world, doesn't understand.
Yep.
So that's my biggest challenge, is inspiring a greater sense of urgency. Love our clients, love the partners we're working with. We're doing some really interesting work, and we figured this out, and I know we're gonna absolutely take it to the next level, as you said.
David Nour Avnir, ladies and gentlemen. David, if people want to find out more about you, see what you do, where should they go?
Avnir.com. That's AVNIR.com is the technology platform. Would love to have your audience check it out. We're actively onboarding the next cohort of what we call early access customers. So just a website, Avnir.com, is a great chance to learn more about our efforts.
We will put all the links in the description. I can say one thing for sure, David, is that you've gained at least one new connection on LinkedIn out of this interview. Me, we are now connected. And I'm also going to say this one thing. I don't know if it will mean something to anyone, but if it wasn't for E between the V and the N, but it's pronounced the same, Avnir in French means future.
You're exactly right.
You want with that?
No. That's so. This one is a derivative of the French word.
Here we go.
We talk a lot about new heights, new beginnings.
Here we go.
There you
David,
go.
Thank you so much for coming on the Principal Podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Principal Podcast. We hope you've learned valuable lessons and strategies to grow your firm and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.